Alright, hello everyone. Here in mod 17, long overdue for a update for Arbiter. So let's go ahead and head over to the dummies. And we'll just go ahead and go through feats and stuff. So feat wise, I have Piercing Javelin. Just uses at wills to give you a 100% crit chance for when you use Searing Javelin. So Focus Light or Tipping Scales, I really don't use either of them, so I just kind of picked a random one. I have Focus Light just in case I wanted to change my single target rotation for some reason, but I really don't use Daunting Light at all. And this one I really just don't use Divine Glow. Over here though, Sudden Verdict. Whenever you use a power, it'll generate a full stack of the other side's thing. So if you use Radiant Power, you get full stacks of fire, or you have a 25% chance to do that, and vice versa. Inner Balance is just requires you to actually like fine tune your stats, and doesn't really give you anything of a advantage. For the daily feat, I chose for the Flame Strike for the lingering fire effect. I hardly use it, but in cases where like in like the Illusion Gambit, when you have like, you know, a whole bunch of poweries coming through, like it could be useful just, you know, for swarms. And for the final one, instead of, I believe the last video I have Angel of Death, I have switched to Perfect Balance, because Angel of Death just doesn't proc a whole lot, and even when it does, like, you get barely any time to actually use it. But with Perfect Balance, especially if I go with single target, like, I can keep Divinity up almost completely. Passives. So I use Divine Equilibrium, which gives me a 50% damage bonus when I have half my Divinity. And even if like I'm not at full Divinity, I also get some damage. I have Doomsayer. Whenever I use an encounter that inflicts negative condition on an enemy, you increases damage dealt by 10%. Most of my encounters actually, Break the Spirit and Giaz, both good for single target, and I can kind of alternate between them to keep up the Doomsayer. And for single target, I use Forge Master Flame, and I will switch to Searing Javelin for AoE. Dailies, I know a lot of people use Hammer Fate just because it's got a higher magnitude total. However, I prefer Guardian of Faith for the I mean, it's got the additional CC, which is honestly meh, but it's got a lot faster cast time, so I can just quickly cast that and then go right back into my rotation. At wills, I use Lance of Faith and Conflagrate. For at wills, you mainly want to have opposite. Like, you want one with Radiant and one with Burning Judgment, just so you can build stacks of either one. Yeah, that's my powers. Companions are not optimal right now. Like, I have mostly power. I have some HP just because I don't have the best companions at all. Mounts, I've honestly haven't really fixed from mod 15, so I still have a lot of ones that were good for then. Gladiator's Guile is still good now. Artificial Persuasion's And this one doesn't really, because I don't think this one actually increases power at all, like it used to. But for your equip power, you want power 10k if you got the 10k legendary, and then like I just have this just because I only have one legendary. But as far as equipment goes, you want stuff that gives you percentage to damage. Let's see, I also have an alternate. So a lot of people will use the Ebony Stayed Hide. However, I've noticed as Cleric I can't keep stacks up that well, so I've switched to the Executioner's Black Garbs. Gives me 5% damage when I'm behind, which is going to be, honestly, most times, especially if you're in a group. Just, stand right behind the boss with the tank facing the boss away from everyone. But Persiage Hood's best is if you're doing Undermountain stuff. I've got the Eye Stock Wrappers on right now, but honestly, best in slot is going to be, let me switch over, these ones, the Trapper of the Twilight Braces. It'll give you a 3% increase to your encounter damage, which is honestly most of your damage. And for boots, I have the Root Stompers. I really can't find too many boots that are all that great. So I just kind of use these just because I find, even though it's best to stay within melee range, I do find myself at range a lot. Especially now that they changed how combat advantage worked. As far as the artifact set, you want the Demon Lord set. It's lower item level. However, you get the additional up to 20% damage based on difference of health. And especially on bosses, like, you're gonna get that 20% difference fairly quickly. I have a Ring of the Shadow Stalker. I'm gonna switch that to my second range power perk as soon as I get the bracers to drop, which will be eventually. But this is good for now just because you get 2% more damage. 2.5 if you are lucky enough to get +5. But the +4 drops fairly often enough. Shirt, I have damage increased by 3% if you're over 75% stamina, which should be most times. And then for the pants, I just have the standard higher item level with the when you critically strike, you get more action points. Now for primary artifact, I use the Wyvern Venom Coated Knives just because it boosts everyone's DPS. Your personal DPS isn't going to be as high as compared to like a rogue or a ranger or a wizard, at least until they do some sort of balance pass. That is to say, though, you can't be high DPS. You can complete Tower of the Mad Mage. I have not personally done that just because I don't have friends of high enough level. But I know it can be done with off classes. But let's go ahead and go into rotation. So generally, I will start off with Conflagrate, quickly get up, and then I'll start with one of my Radiant dealing encounters. And you want to switch your encounters between Burning and Radiant. So if you notice, well, if I didn't get the procs, I'll just go ahead and do that. My everything is perfectly timed. But if you were to get like, let's say if, okay, so, sorry, stop right here, so I can just focus on talking instead of doing the rotation. So if you do get a sudden judgment, especially if it's the Radiant one, you want to just go ahead and use your Guardian Faith. Um, but as you saw there, like towards the end of my rotation, I was getting low on Divinity. However, it's fairly close to the 50% mark, so you should be getting that damage bonus. But as you saw there, my perfect balance went off right as I was getting to the point where I might have needed to use the tab ability to convert pips over. But yeah, that's the single target, and then for AoE, it's essentially the same thing, but usually if you're AoE, you're going to be like moving around and stuff, so you might not necessarily get pips drawn. That's where the sudden verdict really comes into play though. So like, let's say, yeah, oh, perfect. So let's just say you use the, Aegeas or BTS just to quickly try to get that proc. You can go ahead and use a max, wow, was actually procking pretty well. The max javelin to do all your damage. Usually, when you are in AoE, you're just going from mob to mob with Break the Spirit and Giaz. Don't worry about making sure you have 6 pips before launching it. Just use it. Use that. Even if it doesn't proc, you just use a couple javelins or a couple lances, sorry, and then use your javelin. As far as equipment stuff, I have 2 of these Alliance Battle Horns. They have a 10-minute timer, but they do give you a significant amount of AP. But yeah, that's basically it. We'll just go ahead and go through the single target one more time. So you start out with Ken Flag, and I use Break the Spirit just for the debuff. And you just kind of make sure you have pips when you use these for single target. Oh, so you notice right there I had procced a sudden thing. And there we go, perfect balance. As you see, my 2 timed encounters are actually fairly well timed to where it comes off cooldown when you need it. Well, it's also important when you use it daily, you don't actually gain your Radiant Shift pips when you use it daily. So you have to keep that in mind. So like, what you saw right now is like I went from the Forge Master Flame Strike to Guardian of Faith, which normally is radiant damage. Right? Yeah, normally radiant damage. However, my next encounter, I had to go and build up radiant again to the power up by the GS. But yeah, that is my updated Arbiter build. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you all for watching.